Why does she lose interest after the first few dates? Because you became too easy, too predictable, too available. Today you're going to discover exactly how to become the type of man who keeps her awake at night thinking about you, using Neil Strauss's most powerful principles. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why women get bored so quickly, but you'll have the exact tools to be the challenge she'll never be able to forget. Most men make the same fatal mistake from the very first moment they meet a woman they like. They transform into completely different people. They start responding to every text instantly, cancel their plans to be available, say yes to everything she suggests, and basically become an open book without any mystery whatsoever. Sound familiar? Neil Strauss explains this perfectly in his teachings. Attraction is not a choice. It's an automatic emotional response. And one of the most powerful emotions you can generate in a woman is uncertainty, not destructive insecurity, but that sweet uncertainty that keeps her wanting to know more about you. Picture this situation. You're watching a series on Netflix. If you knew exactly what was going to happen in every episode, would you keep watching? Of course not. The human brain is designed to seek patterns and solve mysteries. When you're too predictable, you literally turn off the natural interest she feels for you. Here's your first practical exercise. For the next 3 days, before responding to any message from a woman you're interested in, ask yourself, what would she expect me to respond? And then, do exactly the opposite of the obvious. Don't be rude or cruel, just be unexpected. But there's something even deeper you need to understand about female nature, and this will completely change your perspective on relationships. The second principle you must master goes beyond being unpredictable. It's about creating what Neil Strauss calls constant emotional tension. This isn't the negative tension that comes from drama or conflicts. It's that electricity you feel in the air when two people are attracted to each other, but neither is completely sure what the other is thinking. Have you noticed how the most attractive women in the world always seem to be with men who don't treat them like goddesses? It's not a coincidence, it's pure psychology. When you treat a woman like she's perfect from day one, you're unconsciously telling her that you're not her equal. You're communicating that she's above you in value. Neil Strauss discovered this during his years researching seduction. Women are attracted to men they feel they could lose. Not to cruel or abusive men, but to men who have options, who have an interesting life beyond them, who don't reorganize their entire world around one single person. Let me give you a concrete example. John meets Maria at a party. John is the typical nice guy. He tells her how beautiful she is, invites her to dinner at the best restaurant in town, sends flowers to her work, and basically acts like she's the best thing that's ever happened to him. Result? Maria gets bored after 3 weeks. On the other hand, there's Carlos. Carlos also meets an attractive woman, but his approach is completely different. When she tells him she's free on Friday, he responds, "I've got plans Friday, but Saturday we could do something interesting if you have the energy to keep up with me." See the difference? Carlos isn't being mean, but he's also not being desperate. Your second mission: identify 3 activities in your life that you genuinely enjoy and that you wouldn't change for anyone. It could be your gym workout, your time with friends, your personal project. Commit to maintaining these activities, no matter who shows up in your romantic life. If you want to really stand out among all the men competing for her attention, you need to understand that if there's no resistance, there's no tension. And without tension, there's no attraction. This is where things get really interesting, because the third element that separates irresistible men from forgettable ones is something most don't even consider. The third pillar to becoming an irresistible challenge is mastering the art of strategic availability. This means it's not about playing hard to get all the time, but being smart about when to be available and when not to be. Neil Strauss explains this concept brilliantly. Scarcity creates value, but total scarcity creates rejection. The key is finding the perfect balance. You want her to know she's on your radar, but also that she's not the center of your universe. Think about the most exclusive restaurants in your city. They're not closed all the time, but you also can't just show up any day at any time and get a table. They have specific hours, require reservations, and that exclusivity is exactly what makes them desirable. The same applies to you. If you're always available, your time has no value. If you're never available, you seem uninterested. But if your availability is limited, and it seems like you have an interesting life full of activities, your time automatically becomes more valuable. Here's a specific strategy that works incredibly well. When a woman invites you to do something, don't say yes immediately. Instead, say something like, "Let me check my schedule and I'll confirm tomorrow." Even if you have nothing planned, this simple phrase communicates that your time is valuable and that you don't make impulsive decisions. Have you noticed that the most socially attractive people never seem desperate to make plans? They always give the impression that they could be doing something more interesting, but they've chosen to spend time with you. That's the mindset you need to adopt. Practice this. Next time someone invites you to something, no matter how free you are, take at least an hour before responding. Not because you're playing mind games, but because a valuable person considers their options before committing. But here comes the really revolutionary part. There's a fourth element that Neil Strauss considers fundamental, and it's something most men are afraid to do because it goes against everything we were taught about being polite. The fourth principle that will change your game forever is learning to disagree gracefully. This means you don't have to agree with her on everything. In fact, showing your real personality, including your different opinions, is what makes you memorable and interesting. Most men believe that to be liked by a woman they have to be perfect, agree with everything she says, and never create any kind of friction. This is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Neil Strauss discovered this during his research. Women don't fall in love with perfect men, they fall in love with real men. When you always agree with her, when you never express a contrary opinion, when you avoid any kind of interesting debate or discussion, you become what psychologists call an empty mirror. You have no substance of your own. You just reflect what she wants to see. But you know what's really attractive? A man who can say, "You know what, I see things differently," and then explain his point of view with respect, but with firmness. This shows you have character, you have convictions, you're not a leaf that moves with any wind. Let me give you a practical example. She says, "I hate people who go to the gym. They only go out of vanity." The typical response from a desperate man would be, "Yeah, you're right. It's super superficial." But your response as a man who represents a challenge would be, "Interesting perspective. I go to the gym because it makes me feel mentally strong, not just physically. I think taking care of your body can be a way of respecting yourself." See how that creates a much more interesting conversation. You're not attacking her opinion, but you're also not sacrificing yours just to please her. Here's your challenge. During this week, in at least 3 conversations, express a genuine opinion that you know might be different from the other person's. Do it with respect, but do it with conviction. Notice how it changes the conversation dynamic. Repeat this phrase every morning. My value doesn't depend on everyone agreeing with me, because when you really internalize this, your presence becomes magnetic. If you're enjoying this content, give this video a like right now. And if you want more advanced seduction and attraction strategies, subscribe to the channel because I publish content like this every week. But there's a 5th level that only true masters of attraction reach, and it's the most counterintuitive of all. The 5th and most powerful principle is what Neil Strauss calls the paradox of interested disinterest. This means you show genuine interest in her as a person, but total disinterest in impressing her or winning her approval. It's the hardest balance to achieve, but also the most effective. The difference is subtle, but revolutionary. When you're interested in impressing her, everything you do is designed to get a specific reaction from her. When you're genuinely interested but detached from the outcome, your energy is completely different. Neil Strauss explains it like this. The men most attractive to women are those who see them as interesting human beings, not as prizes to conquer. This mindset changes everything about your body language, your tone of voice, and the energy you project. Imagine you're talking to someone famous whom you admire, but you know you'll never have a romantic relationship with that person. How would your behavior be? You'd be authentic, you'd ask questions because you're really interested in knowing their perspective, you wouldn't have the pressure to look good, and you'd probably have a much more interesting and relaxed conversation. That's exactly the energy you need to bring to your interactions with women who attract you. Genuine interest without the desperation for approval. Here's a specific technique. When you're talking to a woman you like, ask yourself this mental question. What can I learn from this person? Instead of how can I impress her? This simple shift in focus will completely transform your presence. Another powerful strategy is what I call the inverted compliment. Instead of telling her how beautiful she is like all the other men, notice something unique about her personality or ideas. For example, I like how you think about that topic. It's not the typical perspective I usually hear. This shows you're paying attention to who she is, not just how she looks. Have you noticed that the most interesting conversations of your life have probably been with people you expected nothing from? That freedom from expectations is magnetic. Practice this. In your next conversation with an attractive woman, focus completely on discovering something interesting about her way of thinking. Forget whether she likes you or not. Forget if there's going to be a second date. Just connect with her as a human being. When you master this art, something incredible happens. Women start feeling comfortable being vulnerable with you because they don't feel like you're constantly judging or evaluating them. And that genuine comfort is the foundation of real and lasting attraction. Repeat this mantra. I'm interesting enough to meet incredible people without needing to prove anything to anyone. Because when you really believe this, your energy becomes irresistible. We're getting to the point where all this connects, and I want you to understand something fundamental. Being a challenge isn't about being cruel or manipulative. It's about being a complete man who has an interesting life and doesn't sacrifice it for anyone. When you apply these 5 principles, something magical begins to happen in your life. Women start seeing you differently. You're no longer just another man trying to impress them. You become someone genuinely interesting, someone they want to spend time with, because you bring real value to their lives. Have you ever wondered why some men seem to have natural ease attracting incredible women? It's not because they're better looking or richer. It's because they've internalized these principles so deeply that they no longer have to act or pretend. They're simply attractive men in their natural way of being. The key is understanding that attraction isn't something you do, it's something you are. It's not a technique you apply from time to time. It's a mindset you adopt permanently. When you stop seeing women as mysterious and impossible to understand beings and start seeing them as complex and interesting human beings, everything changes. Neil Strauss spent years studying this phenomenon and reached a revolutionary conclusion. The most successful men with women aren't necessarily those who have more techniques or strategies. They're the ones who have developed such an interesting and authentic version of themselves that they naturally become attractive. This means all the real work isn't external, it's internal. It's not about memorizing lines or tricks. It's about becoming the type of man who doesn't need tricks because his presence alone is magnetic. Do you remember the last time you met someone who really impressed you? It wasn't because that person tried to impress you. It was because there was something authentic and powerful in their energy that you couldn't ignore. That's what you need to develop in yourself. When you reach this point, relationships become natural and fluid. You no longer have to calculate every move or worry about saying something wrong. You simply are yourself, and your authentic version is so attractive that women naturally feel drawn to you. But here comes the most important part. This transformation process doesn't happen overnight. It requires constant practice, self-awareness, and the courage to be vulnerable and authentic in a world that teaches us to wear masks constantly. The first step is deciding that you're no longer going to be the man who begs for attention. You're no longer going to be the one who cancels his plans for someone he barely knows. You're no longer going to be the one who says what he thinks the other person wants to hear. You're going to be the man who has such an interesting life that women want to be part of it. You're going to be the man who generates curiosity instead of desperation. You're going to be the challenge she can never completely solve, and that's exactly why she'll never get bored of you. This isn't manipulation, it's personal evolution. It's becoming the best version of yourself and allowing that version to naturally attract the right people into your life. If you really want to master this art, you need to make a commitment to yourself right now. A commitment to work on yourself every day, to develop your personality, your interests, your confidence, and your ability to genuinely connect with other people. Because at the end of the day, being an irresistible challenge isn't about secret techniques or psychological tricks. It's about becoming a man so interesting, so confident in himself, and so authentic that women can't help but feel attracted to your energy. And when you reach that point, you won't just attract more women, you'll attract the right women, those who can truly appreciate who you are and what you offer. Now I want you to do something with me. I want you to write in the comments exactly this. I choose to become the challenge she can never completely solve, not through manipulation, but by being the most authentic and interesting version of myself. Write it now, because when you put your commitments in writing, your subconscious mind starts working to make them become reality. If this video changed your perspective on attraction and relationships, give it a like right now. Share it with that friend who needs to hear these tips, and subscribe to the channel, because every week I share advanced strategies that will help you become the man who naturally attracts incredible women. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to be the first to see new content. Because knowledge without action is useless, but knowledge applied correctly can transform your life forever. Remember, it's not about getting just any woman. It's about becoming the type of man who attracts the right women naturally and authentically. And that process starts right now, with the decision to no longer settle for being ordinary when you can be extraordinary. See you in the next video.